You're listening to the Joe Camo Show. Real sports, real talk.
All right, guys, excited today to bring Geoff Wilson on. He's a sports card investor. I know a lot of you guys keep asking me, how do I get into sports cards? Because I do a lot of sports cards giveaways and stuff like that on my show, on my Instagram. Joe, how do I get into this? What do I do? I can't answer all this because I'm not an expert at this stuff. So welcome to the show, Geoff Wilson, here to hopefully answer some questions and clear some things up. How are you doing, man?
Good, Joe. Happy to be here.
I'm excited to have you on, and I'm really excited with what you do because I'm passionate about fantasy football, and I wanted to get into sports cards. I just don't have time. I just can't master it like you, so why not bring in the black belt, the jiu-jitsu master of sports cards yourself? I just want to learn a little bit about yourself, how you got into this, and I have so many questions for a lot of people, like what cards to get, how do I get into this, what are the secrets? I just want to dive in. I'm going to extract as much from your brain as I possibly can because that's what I want to do to bring value to anyone listening. And Geoff, I want to make this show evergreen as well, so people that are just getting into it or even experts, how to get into it, what do you do, some tips and tricks, like really deep dive. Are you okay with sharing this some of your secrets? Not all of them, but some of them, Geoff.
Yeah, let's do it, man. This sounds great. Looking forward to this.
I mean, we're both passionate about it, so we could talk about it. So, Geoff, I want to learn a little bit more about what you do. I kind of came across you as a sports card investor, but I didn't really get to know Geoff Wilson. But you are an actual real life investor, and this is a side project, or how does this all play in? Like, what's your story?
Yeah, that's how it started. I would call myself a serial entrepreneur. I've started 14 different companies and invested in several others. Most in the technology space, a lot of online startup digital product type things along the way. I've had some really big successes, some exits, all that type of thing. I've had some failures as well, so I've gotten the experience on both ends. And I came across sports cards a few years ago. I actually was when I was a kid, huge sports card fanatic. Flipping baseball cards back when I was in elementary and middle school back in the late 80s, early 90s type deal, like a lot of people, but then totally lost touch with them for years and years and years. And I was actually researching sports gambling product ideas because when the laws changed a few years ago and sports gambling, the states could take on sports gambling on their own. I said, hey, there's going to be tons of opportunity in the sports gambling space in the years ahead. And as a tech entrepreneur, and as a sports fanatic, I want to launch something into the sports gambling space. So I was researching the space pretty heavily, but there's obviously tons of regulations and every state is handling licensing differently. And there's a lot of issues and it was already starting to get pretty crowded, even though it was just in its early days. So I hadn't quite found the angle yet. And it was right at that time that my son came home. I've got a son who I think at the time was like 6 or 7, and he came home from a visit at his grandmother's house, my mom, and he had some football cards that she had bought him while he was down there visiting. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know they made these anymore. I haven't seen football cards for years. Right. And so I started going through the cards with him. I'm like, man, this is pretty cool. Like I remember doing this. I love doing this. And so all of a sudden I started kind of researching the space a little bit. And I realized that the sports card market was an absolute sleeping giant that was about to explode, but that people hadn't yet realized it. This was a few years ago. And so I got in heavy in terms of buying up cards and in terms of starting to create content around it because I felt like this thing is going to take off. And sure enough, here we are. And it's been one of the fastest growing markets that there is over the last year and tremendous growth during the pandemic.
Yeah, I think we should put our minds together because we're front runners here in two major industries, fantasy football and sports cards. And again, if my listeners don't know, some people have been following me for like 4 or 5 years ago when I first started this. I started off with bringing sports cards. This could be an idea. Maybe we'll think about this. But for fantasy football, I want to bring them together. So we'll talk about this a little off the air. I want to bring these industries together a bit more because what I originally created was a fantasy frame where you basically put your players in a frame. So if you let's say I own Tom Brady, I own Kenny Galladay, I own James Robinson, whatever it is. If that's my fantasy team that helped me win, I put the 10 cards, my top 10 players in. We do the engraving, and I kind of married sports cards with fantasy football. Now, again, I didn't sell a lot of these because I didn't have a brand back then. I was just like, hey man, I didn't even do any advertising for it. I did sell a couple, right? Considering I didn't have a brand, that was pretty good. But there's got to be a way we can marry these industries. You think that's something that could happen? I mean, they're huge markets.
Oh yeah, what's interesting about sports cards is it is absolutely going in the direction of daily fantasy sports. In fact, I see the sports card markets being essentially an extension of daily fantasy sports, but instead of, picking a lineup and hoping to win a prize, instead you're picking a lineup and you're buying the cards of those players. And in my opinion, and you may disagree because I recognize fantasy is your world, but I think the sports card world is actually superior to the fantasy sports world for a number of reasons. One of those big reasons is even if you pick the wrong lineup, if you invest in the wrong guys and they don't materialize and have a good season or a good weekend the way you thought they would, those cards still hold a lot of value, even if they didn't have a great season or a great weekend, and you can cash out down maybe 20%, right? Whereas in fantasy sports, obviously you got nothing if you're on the losing end of the contest.
Right.
But the upside in sports cards can be even greater than the upside in fantasy sports. So I like it for a lot of reasons, and there are certainly a lot of parallels.
Yeah, we're gonna have to butt some heads here because fantasy versus sports cards. But I don't think there really isn't any butting heads. I think they just marry together nicely. I think it's a nice merge. But with sports cards, again, I'm a buy and hold kind of guy. So I don't have a lot of cards, but I'll tell you kind of what I got here and you can break it down. So I got a Russell Wilson. I think it's just a, what is it? Panini Prism card signed. Yep. It was 11 out of 99, but I was sitting there. I'm like, oh crap, this thing's kind of worth something right now, but it's ungraded. I ended up investing in a Luka card, silver Prism PSA 10. I paid like $1,500 a year and a half ago. It's like I saw the last one selling on eBay for $8,000. I got a Trae Young silver, and I got a bunch of running backs. But for football, because my main audience is football, so I wanted to ask you, could I ask you some open questions here? Can we do that? And then we'll dive in.
And just to give your audience, before you do, just to give your audience an understanding of what this market's been like, I've got my data platform, Market Movers, up on my own screen here, which is a data platform I created that tracks the price of sports cards and tracks the price of your collection. So you mentioned Russell Wilson. Yeah. If you had bought Russell Wilson's 2012 Prism rookie card in PSA 10 condition, so a graded card in perfect condition, you could have bought that card on eBay for right around $100 at the beginning of this year. That card was consistently selling for around $100 on eBay at the beginning of this year. You could have sold that card a month into the football season, end of September, beginning of October, when Russell Wilson was kind of, as hot as could be and was kind of the early leading MVP candidate. You could have sold that same card for almost $3,000. That's what they were selling for on eBay. So again, you could have bought his card for $100 at the beginning of the year, sold his card for around $3,000 9 months later. And that's what the card market has been doing.
Wow. So how do you set up this infrastructure? First of all, is that a secret site you're on, or can you share that site? I know you have an app as well to get updated info. So what kind of resources can you get to look this stuff up other than eBay?
Yeah, so for people just getting into it, the first thing you should do is download the Sports Card Investor app in the App Store, either Android or iPhone. It's free, totally free. And it will go through and tell you the prices of what popular cards are trading at. And it also shows you, it updates every day and shows you what the hottest cards have been over the last 24 hours. So it's a pretty cool way to see how the market's trending. Again, you just go to the App Store and search for Sports Card Investor. Then I also have a paid product, which is a really heavy data analytics price guide. It's the type of software that if you're kind of like in fantasy, if you're really looking to dominate your draft in your league, you're going to go buy your draft kit, and you're going to get that type of intelligence.
That's what I need.
That's my Market Movers software. And it's a robust product, a web-based product where, it breaks down the card values of over 10,000 cards, and it shows you where good investment opportunities are. You can find out about that one by going to sportscardinvestor.com and clicking on Market Movers in the main menu bar.
So what is this, a piece of software? So let's just say because I have a Trae Young, so I want to know how much that's worth. Is it going to tell me like this is worth this much? It's going to trend upwards. Is there like analytics where I can find out if it's going up or down, kind of like fantasy stock?
100%. That's exactly what it does. So you can, and it tracks, like for example, with Trae Young, we're tracking over 100 of his cards in the software. So you could go in there and pick which Trae Young card you have, or if you're at a card show or looking at a listing on eBay, which one you're thinking about buying, you could put it in the software, put in information about its condition, and it's going to tell you how much it's worth, how it's been trending, where the market's been going. And in the case of Trae Young, I just looked that up. If we go back to the start of last year's basketball season, his 2018 Prism rookie cards, base card, and PSA 10, you could have been buying those on eBay at the start of last basketball season. They were consistently selling for right around $40 on eBay. There was a ton of them selling for around $40 on eBay. Yesterday, that card was selling for $820 on eBay. So it's a 2,000% increase over the course of a year in terms of Trae Young's card values.
I'm going to get this app or this program because I'm really into this stuff, but I find myself scrambling, looking around all the time and trying to figure stuff out. If this is going to give me the answers, then why it's just a one-stop shop. Is it affordable though? Yeah.
So our Market Mover software starts at $24.95 a month. So bad. if you're investing at least a few $100, a month in sports cards, it's way worth it because it's going to help you it's going to help you do better with your investment, make better investment decisions, all that type of thing. If you're just dipping your toe into it and you haven't really put any money into it yet, and you just want to play around a little bit, then that's where the Sports Card Investor app in the App Store is a great starting solution, since that one's free.
So I'm going to ask some questions as if I was one of the fans starting to get into it, because I get a lot of questions. My DM's inundated with fantasy questions, but every time I post about fantasy or sports cards, they're like, where do you get your cards? What do you do? So if I'm just getting into it now, let's say I have a budget from anywhere from $100, let's say to $1,000. I know it's kind of a big range here, but that's my budget, up to $1,000. Do I go to a local card shop and buy a hobby box with a potential to win a signed autograph rookie card? Do I get one of those blaster packs? What is a blaster pack? Do I go to Walmart and try to scour their shelves to try to get a deal? Do I go on eBay and just get the player that I want? I got about $1,000. Where do I start? I want to get into this. What do I do? Can you give me some advice, please?
Yeah, if you're looking to try to make some money with it, you absolutely do not go and buy boxes at your hobby shop and open them up, or Walmart and open them up, because while opening up a box is fun, it's a lot of fun, by the way. It's a lot of fun to rip into a box of sports cards. I have a great time with it, but it is essentially gambling. And most of the time, in fact, about 75% of the time, in my experience, when you open a box of cards, the cards inside are worth less than what you paid for the actual box.
Right.
And the reason for that is because occasionally you'll open up the box and you'll get some crazy, awesome card that's worth thousands of dollars. And so it's a trade-off, right? It's a bit like, playing a slot machine in Vegas. But from an investing standpoint, you're better off not doing that. You're better off buying the cards of the individual players who you want to chase. Or you can there is a whole market where you can buy those sealed boxes, but you can keep them sealed and then resell them at a later time. But that's kind of a more advanced strategy. At first, I would just recommend go after the guys who maybe you're tracking in fantasy, the guys who you think are going to have a good year in 2021, right. Perhaps in football. Start thinking about buying those guys this off season. The football market will probably quiet down a little bit in the off season, and there might be a good opportunity to pick up some cards of guys who could have really good years in 2021.
Okay, so here's another addition to that. So I'm playing the newbie here. I'm a bit of a newbie anyway, a sports card, but not as a newbie as some people probably listening. So you said basically get the player that I want. So graded or ungraded? That's a good question, I think.
Yeah, so what graded is, just so everybody knows, is graded is where someone ripped the card out of a pack, but then they sent it in to a company called PSA or BGS or SGC, and they essentially authenticated the card, and they measured the condition of the card and then put it into a slab with a grade on top of it. From an investment standpoint, whenever you can get a graded card, you want to go for the graded card, because the graded card ensures consistent quality. You know what you're getting. You know what the rating of that card is. You know that the card's not going to be beat up or have a scratch or have dinged edges or that kind of thing. Especially if you're buying the cards online, buying them graded gives you security in the fact that you know the type of product that you're getting. So I would recommend graded whenever possible. Now, when a brand new card comes out, there's going to be a period of time before graded cards of that player are available, because the grading companies are very slow. They take months and months and months. So for example, it's very difficult right now to get graded cards of Jalen Hurts. Even though a lot of people are trying to go buy Jalen Hurts cards because now he looks like the future of the Eagles, but there's not many graded cards of him available yet, because there hasn't been enough time for them to all get to the grading company and the grading company to send them back. But if you're buying, let's say, Patrick Mahomes, or if you're buying Josh Allen, or if you're buying Lamar Jackson, then those guys, there's plenty of graded cards out there because their cards have been out for a few years. And so you're really going to want to go graded. And ideally, you're going to look for PSA 10s. That's PSA is the biggest of the grading companies, and 10 is their top grade. So if you look for PSA 10s, you can't go wrong.
Okay, because that was the next question. PSA or Beckett, or like I heard that PSA is the best. What makes them the best? Is that
PSA is considered kind of the gold standard in the market. Beckett can have some value certainly as well, and there's some people that prefer Beckett, but to keep things simple, PSA is kind of considered the gold standard. They're the biggest grading company in the market. And people like the fact that a PSA 10 is kind of considered a perfect score. BGS is a little more confusing because BGS is Beckett. Most of the cards that they grade, they consider a 9.5 to be a really great score. And then they have 2 levels of 10 scores, which they save back only for the most exceptional cards. But what that means is the 10s from Beckett are extremely expensive. There's a big premium on them. And the 9.5s are more common. But I think your everyday investor prefers a perfect 10 on their card. And so, and PSA kind of being the gold standard, giving out the 10s, that's just kind of where a lot of the market's gravitated towards.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to debunk everything, get all the questions answered, so people come to this video and get everything they need. I'm going to timestamp everything they need. So I'm going to just get back to what you said about going box or PSA graded. I made a mistake here as I was just getting back into it. I went really aggressive. I went to my local card store, started buying up. I can't remember what series it was, but it was football cards, but it was when the players were before they went into their jerseys. So I went and spent like $2,000 getting all these rookie cards. So I had Josh Jacobs. This was before me and him went through this thing where he wanted to box me. But that's besides the fact. So I had Josh Jacobs. I had all these rookies, Daniel Jones, but they were all out of their jerseys. But I was all excited. So is there a big stigma or like a bad rep? Do I have to get a player in their jersey? Ideally, it's probably better, right?
Yeah. So that's right. So every year when the new rookie class comes out, the first sets of cards that come out are all the players in their college jerseys, because the card manufacturers haven't had enough time yet to get photos of them in their pro jerseys and get them printed. So for example, if you were to buy a Tua card or a Burrow card earlier in the season, the only cards that were out there on the market were cards of them in their college jerseys. Those typically don't hold a whole lot of value long-term, right? Because the sports card investors community and the collector community, wants the players in their pro jerseys. Later in the season is when you start to see cards in their pro jerseys come out. And right now now you can find a bunch of cards of those guys in their pro jerseys, but at the beginning of the season, you couldn't. So yeah, you don't really want to invest heavily until the cards in the pro jerseys start coming out, because, otherwise, as you said, the college jerseys just don't really hold as much investment attention.
So we'll talk brands in a second, because I saw a video of yourself saying Select is the next real deal, maybe over Panini, or is going to be like the next big deal in regards to a popularity. So I want to talk about that in a second. But again, I just want to talk about like kind of the sweet spot of finding the right card, because again, I'm kind of torn here. So let's say it's football, for example, or even basketball. How do I explain it? So how do you find the right player? So let's just say, for example, I know Justin Herbert is going to be good. He did well. If I go to buy his card, I still got to pay $2-3 grand to get a good card. So I'm missing that sweet spot. Do you kind of got to find, like kind of in fantasy, kind of got to find that breakout? Like Justin Jefferson, I knew that he would break out. So I could have maybe got his card before he broke out. Is that kind of the secret? And then again, I'm kind of torn. It's tough. Do I get a 10 graded of him? What's the secret to kind of maximize your profit of getting the right card? Is there any tricks?
Yeah. Great question. Well, so first of all, there's a number of different strategies you can employ. And like any type of investing, being a little bit diverse in what you're investing in tends to be a pretty good thing. So let's say you wanted to concentrate on football cards. So one strategy would be to buy Hall of Fame players, guys who are retired. Go buy cards from the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Go buy Walter Payton's rookie card and Dan Marino's rookie card. that is a very safe strategy. Those cards over time have gone up and up and up, but they inch up. They don't rocket up overnight. It's a safe but slow, type of investment strategy. And by the way, I use the word safe, but obviously we're talking about an alternative investment medium here. So there's some risk with all of this, right? I mean, it's not like I would not say this is safe, like go spend your whole 401k on it. There's obviously risk with all of this, but typically if you're investing in the Hall of Famers, those cards have proven the test of time and they slowly go up every year. But that's a nice, safe way to do it. Now, your next level is buying the guys who have been in the league for a while, your veteran players who are fairly proven, but maybe still have some upside. So that's like your Russell Wilson, right? Like he's still got upside if he can get the Seahawks back to another Super Bowl, win an MVP award, that type of thing. Yet he's done enough where his cards are always going to retain value, some value, no matter what happens. Then your third level is you're going all the way to the first, second, third year guys, the guys who are more speculative. You just mentioned Justin Jefferson, those types of guys who you think could have a breakout. Now it's hard to do that with someone like Jefferson. It's difficult to do that because the problem is that by the time his cards that you actually wanted to invest in came out with his pro uniform on from the popular sets that everyone, seeks,
he's broken out already.
He's already broken out. So the value, like the surprise breakout there, it had already happened. So really, if you're really looking for a breakout guy, you got to be looking at someone who's been in the league already for a year or two, but you think is going to really kind of start to emerge. Like a guy who's been a breakout guy this year is Josh Allen. Right. He wasn't given a lot of respect by the sports card hobby the last couple of years. Yet this year, he's had an MVP-like season. His card prices have gone up in value tremendously. But he was the guy you could have been buying up in the offseason last year for real cheap. Even Baker Mayfield falls into that boat because while Baker Mayfield his cards were super hot when he was a rookie, they really fell out of favor after last season and his cards dipped in price considerably. So if you were buying Baker Mayfield this offseason, you would have done great because obviously he's, done a lot better this year than people thought he was potentially going to do. So you kind of got to look in that direction. And then once you've got your player identified or your players identified, then what you really want to do is you want to look for their key cards, ideally graded. But one thing you'll find about sports cards, it can be very, very confusing. There are, in football alone, there's around 30 different sets of cards that are made every single year. So if you just go and search for Josh Allen cards on eBay, you're going to see 30 different brands of Josh Allen cards. And then within each of those sets, there's a whole bunch of different variations, different colors. It's very confusing. It's very confusing. So to get started, you want to really only concentrate on the most popular sets and the most popular variations of those cards. Make it smaller, size it down, concentrate just on a few things. And we could talk about what those are. But then when you go out and you buy the cards, it's really important to understand what the actual market value of those cards are, what they have sold for in recent days. You've got to understand that because if you just go to eBay and start clicking buy now, you're going to overpay for a whole bunch of cards because people are putting them up there at really, really high prices and you have to negotiate. You have to make offers or get in on auctions and all that kind of stuff. And that's where the Sports Card Investor app can help you out. That's where my Market Movers data platform can help you out because both of those things will show you, hey, this card has most recently sold for this. So you know what a fair price might be.
Yeah, because I'm looking, and you got to watch trends too. Like I was just reading that Patrick McDavid guy I had on my show recently. He's an entrepreneur, and he invested again in those Gretzky cards. I think bought them for $500,000. His wife thought he was probably crazy. Like, why you buy, spending that much? And then I think it was 17 months later, sold them for $2,010,000, 233% return in 17 months, which is crazy. He was talking also about a Jordan, how when that documentary came out, The Last Dance, his card shot up, right? So it's kind of like, even with me, when I sell my draft kits for fantasy football, when that NFL draft comes up, I make sales like for my draft kit for fantasy football. And then as soon as the media and like the mainstream, or when something's trending, it's hot. So is there a secret to kind of say, oh, maybe there's a documentary coming up on Emmitt Smith? Maybe I should, is there a way, do you dig that deep, or is this getting too advanced to start looking for trends on the media?
Oh, no, people are definitely doing that. Tiger Woods cards have been the hottest card in the sports card hobby over the last 2 weeks. They've literally gone up more than 500% over the course of the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So if you were holding Tiger Woods cards 2 weeks ago,
right,
for like $300 a card, those cards were selling for as much as $1,500 a couple of days ago. Now that by the way, is a little too crazy. And I think that the Tiger Woods cards are in for a big market correction because they got a little too hot. You can't have that happen to that extreme of a degree, because then it's just a bunch of like flipping speculation type stuff that's driving it to that extreme. But yeah, I mean, the price changes are very dynamic, and you've got to really track the market, understand the trends, see what things are doing. And then obviously the idea is to buy low before there's a breakout. And then, when you see that card go up, much like the Jordan card did when the documentary was out about him. And of course, the reason, by the way, the Tiger Woods cards are going crazy, documentary out about Tiger Woods coming to HBO the next couple of weekends, they're doing a big documentary about him. So that's a lot of what's fueling Tiger Woods card prices right now.
Okay, so how do I get clarity on brands? Okay, so right now I'm looking at here, let's say Josh Allen or any cards. I look at it, I see a hollow PSA 9 mint, and then I see a silver prism, then I see a base card, then I see there's so many, like there's a score card, there's like, I know score I think is on the lower end, right? And there's rookie rated, and there's gem, and there's purple, and there's green, and there's hologram, and there's like which color is the best, which brand is the best. I just want some clarity. Keep it simple. There's 2 or 3 brands I can stay in. I'm like, I'm good with that, and I'm going to do well with that. Like, how do I get clarity on this? Because once you start getting these colors, how do I know an orange is better than a purple that's better than a blue? And how is anyone that's going to buy it from me going to know that? Because not everybody is Geoff Wilson. So if I get an orange one, it's like, yeah, this is the top one. It's orange. Yeah, it's great. But how are people going to know that? Like, they're not really going to know that unless they see, oh, well, this is worth more. I see that on eBay. It's worth 26,000. It's got to be worth something. So how do we get clarity? Can you please help us with that?
Yeah, I mean, that can be confusing, certainly for someone new coming into it. And so a lot of it comes down to scarcity. Like, the reason why an orange one might be worth more than a purple one is because they may have only made 100 of the orange ones this year across all the different boxes they put out of that particular set. Okay. Whereas maybe they made 10,000 of the purple ones. So that, it's the market catches on to that, how rare a certain card is. And typically the cards that are more rare are the ones that rise in value. Now, there are other factors too, like the popularity of the set, right? Because if you've got a rare card from a set that's not popular, right, it's not going to be worth as much as a more common card from the set that really is popular.
This is why we need you. This is why we need you, right?
Yeah, yes. And of course, on my YouTube channel, Sports Card Investor, I talk about all this kind of stuff often. But at the same time, it's also why you need data, right? And that's why we built the Sports Card Investor app and that type of thing to help, and market movers to help out with that kind of thing a little bit. But to make it simple for your audience, when you're starting out, what I would recommend doing at first is just concentrating on a few sets. And so specifically in the world of football and basketball, so football cards and basketball cards are both made by a company called Panini. And so the football cards and the basketball cards tend to all kind of feature the same sets and have some similarities in look. Prism is kind of the biggest name set within football and basketball. Select, which I personally like more than Prism, is kind of in second place, as well as Mosaic and Optic. Those 4 are kind of very popular across both football and basketball. So if you're getting started, I would look at them: Prism, Select, Mosaic, and Optic. Okay. Concentrate on those 4 sets. And that would be true for football and basketball. And then within those sets, there's going to be the player's kind of base rookie card, which is kind of their standard rookie card. And then there's going to be different variations of it in different colors or different photos, some of which then kind of get more rare depending on the different variations of it. So an easy way, one thing you can do, there's a couple of easy solutions here. Let's say you've identified, hey, I want to invest in Josh Allen cards.
Yeah.
You could go into the Sports Card Investor app and search for Josh Allen, and you'll see all of his different cards. You could look at the different Prism ones, the different Mosaic ones, etc. See the recent prices on those. You can also Google Josh Allen card checklist, and you'll find websites that will talk about all of Josh Allen's different cards and which ones are more sought after and not sought after, all that kind of thing. So you kind of educate yourself. But if you're really concentrated on kind of the base or the silver/refractor, which is kind of the most common type of variant in color of the, from the sets of Prism, Optic, Select, Mosaic, you're going to be in pretty good shape just kind of concentrating on that as a starting point. With baseball is all made by Topps, so it's a little different. With baseball, it's going to be really Topps and Topps Chrome, and Bowman Chrome are kind of the main ones that you're going to care about when you're starting out in the world of baseball.
Here's my secret. I'm not an expert at this. And this is because I'm a fantasy guy, I just find this is what I feel, right? I like those upside buy and hold, big boom kind of cards and players, right? So for me, I wouldn't get a Thurman Thomas card because, again, I find that younger people are now getting into this. They don't know who Thurman Thomas and Emmitt Smith is as much, right? So I just find that recency bias is what a lot of this stuff is about. Like I said, we're going back to those shows. So for me, I'm looking for the trending. I'm looking for the hot. I'm looking for the upside. I'm looking for the Lucas of the world, right? But that, again, could I be right with this? Is that kind of what you do too? Do you look for the boomy kind of guys, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that's your higher risk, higher reward. But
Yes.
yeah, I love doing that because it's more exciting.
Yes.
I do have, a pretty substantial collection of some of the older Hall of Fame type players. It's not as exciting. It's maybe safe. It's maybe safer, but it's not as exciting because obviously they're not going to do anything on the field or on the court that is going to cause their prices to suddenly jump or suddenly fall back. So I do collect a lot of the younger guys. That's who I like to chase. It's a lot. Think of it like picking an auction lineup. In daily fantasy or in a season, a season fantasy auction type format, in that you're balancing star power with value. Because it would be easy to go fill your lineup with Patrick Mahomes, but you're also going to pay a ton for that, and they may not actually have as much upside. It's kind of where's that balance between star power and I'm getting that at a good value, and those are the cards that can really fuel your profits. Now, I will say there is one thing though that daily fantasy sports players and fantasy auction players need to be careful about. And that is that within the sports card investing world, there is an exponential premium placed on star players. And the sports card investing world does not care as much about second tier type players. So I've seen some daily fantasy sports guys make a mistake in that they're going to say like, oh, I think I could get really good value by getting the third wide receiver on, Minnesota because he's kind of unknown and he's kind of coming in and that type of thing. Yeah, but does he have enough star power where people are going to eventually want to collect his cards? If it was someone like Justin Jefferson, the answer is probably going to be yes. But if you're talking like a little on down the depth chart, even if that guy has a really good season for what was expected, which may provide value in the fantasy sports world, that may not translate to value in the sports card world because the guy's got to be able to become big enough of a name to become collectible.
Yeah, watch out for the fool's gold, guys. It's going to have one breakout game. We do this for waiver wires too. Do you play fantasy football at all?
Yeah, I do.
So if you get a guy that has one breakout week, you got to jump on the waiver and get him, and he does nothing for the rest of the season. I'm really cautious with that too. I like names. There's a couple other things I want to ask here. Running back or quarterback? Like, should I just focus? Like, let's be honest with the type of guys, I like to get. Should I just go quarterbacks and just because running backs, they break. They're not as, injuries happen. They're not as high P. Now, Derrick Henry might be cool to get, but I mean, that's the pinnacle of it. Like, other than that, should I just focus on quarterbacks if I want the big boomers?
Quarterbacks for sure.
Yeah.
Wide receivers, some as well. Because they tend to have a little bit more longevity. They also tend to be a little more showy. And so
Yes.
they tend to get talked about a little bit more and that type of thing. They're divas, right? Your good ones they tend to be. So that actually can help their card values because they're in the media. People are seeing them. They think they're funny or, whatever it may be. So, but yeah, quarterbacks are the bread and butter for football cards for sure. Football is different than a sport like basketball. In basketball, there are guys at all of the positions on the basketball court whose cards are really sought after and have gone up in value a lot. In football, there's almost zero interest around any defensive players' cards. And even your big ones, like even JJ Watt and guys like Aaron Darnold, like there's just not a lot of attention to their cards. Your biggest name stars a little bit, but it pales in comparison to the offensive stars. And then when it comes to offense, of course, there's no attention given to like offensive line. There's not even cards for most of the offensive linemen. It's really just your quarterbacks, your star receivers, a few running backs, and then, in terms of like a tight end, I mean, it's pretty much like Travis Kelce, right? And that's, that's kind of the limited world of football card investing.
Yeah, it's crazy because if you don't really know who that player is, you don't really feel like I don't got to invest in the left tackle of that team. Like it's not popular. And that's going back to when we first started talking about buying those boxes. I've gone that mistake. I paid $300 for a box. Oh, I guarantee 2 autographs, and it's 2 defensive players I've never heard of. Oh man, do I lose it? And it's like you feel you've got that buyer's remorse feeling like I just spent $300 hard-earned dollars and it guaranteed me 2 autograph cards, and I didn't get that. I'm better off getting a player that I think could break out. Let's say I spent $600 on Josh Allen his rookie year. Instead of buying like 3 or 4 boxes and not getting Josh Allen, I'd rather spend a little bit more, get the guy I want, and go with that. Again, do you kind of agree with that kind of mentality?
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And that is one of the danger of buying and ripping the boxes is it's fun to rip, but you have to end up getting lucky and pulling one of the really big name cards. I mean, if you're ripping football product this year, and if you open a whole box of cards, and if you don't find a Burrow or a Tua or a Herbert or a Hurts, you're going to be hurting, from that box. You're going to be like, damn, like I didn't get my value out of this box. Maybe Jordan Love, maybe. But if you open a box without one of those big names, which by the way happens all the time, right? Where, as you said, like the big card you get is a defensive player, or something like that, or a second tier receiver or something like that. It's just that box isn't going to provide that value for you.
Yeah. So I want to ask you another thing on card, or like there's this whole stigma or this whole deal with like, oh, that card is signed on a sticker. So is that how they sign? They basically get a roll of tape, they sign, and then these are stuck on the cards after. How does that work? And is it better to have an on card versus just a sticker? Because I would imagine if it's an on card, the player grabbed the card, there's a chance that when he's signing it, now he's scuffed it up. There's some sign, his fingerprints, he threw it back on the table. Someone called him over, maybe he caught the corner. Like on card versus like on card versus tape. Any recommendation there? What's the whole thing behind it?
Yeah. So what's interesting in the sports card world, autographs actually don't add that much value to cards unless it's a really high-end, premier, sought-after card from one of the really high-end sets, which we haven't talked about yet. But for your everyday cards, like your Prism, your Prism cards and your Mosaic and your Select, etc., getting an autograph actually doesn't help the card value that much. In some cases, it hurts the card value.
That's weird. Can I interrupt for 1 second? I found this out a year and a half ago when I was talking to some kid on Instagram. He was like 18 or 19 years old or whatever. He was just getting into it. Or I know he's an expert at it. And he's like, Joe, you don't need the autograph. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's all about the auto. It's all about, why is that? Why is that? I thought the auto was what it's all about.
No, it's not about the auto at all. In fact, it's not. People want the card, and they want the card to be as pristine as possible because it's about getting it graded. It's about getting a perfect score for the card. It's about it being in perfect condition. And adding the autograph adds in elements of things that can go wrong. First of all, the autograph can be smudged or poorly signed, which happens a lot. If it's a on-card auto where the player actually signed the card, oftentimes they end up damaging the card, as you said. And so it's actually hard to get a pristine card with the player auto on it. Otherwise, you end up with what you said were the sticker autos, which is where the player actually signs a clear sticker and then they put the sticker on the card.
Yeah.
And collectors just don't consider sticker autos to be that valuable or that sought after.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
you know, because it's like, oh, they didn't sign the card, they signed a sticker, and then a sticker was placed on top of the card. So people don't find a ton of value in it. So with that middle tier of the card sets to collect that we've been talking about, the autos don't really help that much. Now, as you get into the super high-end product, as you get into, in the case of football or basketball, that would be your national treasures or your immaculate or your flawless. As you get into that level where the cards are literally thousands and thousands of dollars, as are the boxes, then you do want to see a nice autograph on the card, because the card is more of almost a kind of a piece of art at that point. It's typically going to have a big patch of the player's jersey that they wore in a game. They've signed it. It's serial numbered. So at that point, it kind of becomes more of an art piece. So the autos are needed and helpful then, but not for your everyday card.
And that's something else you got to watch as well. See, you could tell I'm just not a complete beginner, because there's something about those worn jerseys. Some of them are game worn, some of them are not. Where are they getting these patches? Again, I like Panini, great company, but you got to watch what it says. If it's game worn versus what is the whole thing with that? Are they actually all game worn? I don't think they are.
Player worn versus game worn. Most of the jersey patches that you find in cards are player worn.
Okay.
It's hard to get a game worn one. The game worn ones offer more value. They are more impressive. So literally what Panini does, they do a rookie signing every year where the new rookie class all gets together and they sign a whole bunch of cards and whatever. So what Panini literally does is they will have a rack of 50 different jerseys of a player's jersey, like Kyler Murray, let's say.
Yeah.
So Kyler Murray's there, it's his rookie year, and he'll go over and Panini will say, okay, we need you to put on every single one of these jerseys.
Wow.
And then immediately take it off and then put on the next one. So literally Kyler Murray will sit there, put on a jersey, take it off, put on a jersey, take it off, put on a jersey, take it off. Now those are now player worn, and then Panini will cut those up into small pieces and put all of those in their cards.
Hey, it's still official. I mean, the guy touched it. Maybe you get a scent of his cologne or something like that.
Something, right? Whereas game worn means they actually got a jersey from a game that he played after the game was over. So there's obviously a lot fewer of those because the players just aren't playing that many games, and they're not, giving their jerseys up from all the games and everything like that. So those become more valuable.
Wow, there's a lot. This is what I mean. There's a lot to this. Okay. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we kind of answered a lot of questions. So I got to ask some secrets here. So I'm getting into basketball. I'm a football MMA guy. So I watch a lot of football. I know football inside out, obviously because of fantasy. And I'm sure a lot of fans do. I'm getting into MMA because I just enjoy it. I just enjoy the fighting. By the way, why is there an MMA card right now? Are they MMA cards?
There are. And in fact, honestly, we'll see, this is speculative, but there's, my team at Sports Card Investor, I've got a couple of guys who are really into MMA cards, specifically UFC cards, because there actually are UFC cards out there. Topps makes them, and there's not a lot of people collecting them or buying them right now. They're pretty under the radar. I mean, obviously, you didn't even know about it, but there are some guys on my team. You can pick up a Colin McGregor auto card for a couple $100 right now. And there's some on eBay, and there's some guys on my team that feel like those cards are gonna, go 10x or something as more people start to discover UFC cards, right? So there is that. But yeah, you said UFC and football. Football is obviously very popular. Basketball is the most popular sport right now from a card collecting and investing standpoint. Basketball, NBA, those cards have accelerated in value the fastest.
This is my theory on that. I got to say why. And you could tell me why. Here's my theory. You can't really see the players' faces in football. With basketball, you see these personalities, these larger than life characters. You see their faces more. Could that be a factor? Is this probably why?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's definitely a factor. There's a lot of reasons why it's a factor. I think the NBA is more of a global game. There's less players on the court, so it's easier to track the stars and really watch what the star is doing all game. The NBA,
more games?
more games. And the NBA players are treated more like stars in the media and that type of thing than the NFL players are. NFL tends to be more of a team game. NBA tends to be more of an individual player, superstar game. The other thing too is that in the NBA, these players jump around between teams often. They create super teams. They'll switch teams, all that type of thing. That actually helps their card values because, the more that they're in the news and the media, and now they're with a new team, and now people are optimistic, maybe they'll be able to do something with that team this year. All that kind of stuff fuels card prices, whereas with football, you don't have as much of that going on.
Yeah, you're getting me excited about this. So I'm going to pick your brain, and don't hold them to this, but can you share 5 basketball cards? Because we know football pretty well. I could tell you maybe a Jalen Hurts, Justin. I know football. I don't need your advice on that. Can you give me 5 basketball cards that you think you can get cheap now that'll go up? Like I'm getting into basketball now. I ended up getting the Trae Young silver. I'm very happy with that. I've done well. The Luka, I'm going to hold on to that for dear life for a long time. I'm pretty proud of that. Is there any other basketball? I'm looking at Tyler Hero this year. There's a couple other players. RJ Barrett didn't do that well from what I didn't get. He didn't really spike like he did. Is there any guys? Some guy was telling me, and some players are just not as big. Like if I had like a Kyrie card, or what? Not Kyrie, or what's the other? Kawhi Leonard, not as popular as let's say a Luka for some reason. Like who is that sweet spot? Like my friend told me Marvin Badgley last year didn't do well with that card. Is there some players that like, wow, that could really boom? Ben Simmons, my cousin was telling me, is Simmons going to be the guy? Like, could you share 5 guys that you like?
Yeah, sure. So I actually wrote an article right before the season started. So we're talking, December 20th or something like that, a few weeks ago, and put it up on my website, sportscardinvestor.com. I wrote the top 12 basketball cards, to buy before the season starts. Now, here's the thing though, about the sports card market. It's only been a couple of weeks since I wrote that article. Some of those cards have doubled in price already. Right. So like the opportunity to buy, you could have bought them a few weeks ago and you would have done great, but some of that's gone by at this point. Like for example, one guy in that article I said was by Nikola Jokic, right? By the Joker's cards. But his cards have doubled over the course of the last 2 weeks. I said to buy Trae Young in that article. I still think Trae Young is a good buy, but Trae Young's cards have accelerated quite a bit over the last couple of weeks as well. In fact, I'm just looking at my software here, my Market Mover software. You could have bought one of Trae Young's base Prism cards on December 20th, which was right when I put out that article. These base Prism cards in PSA 10 were about $550. And then yesterday on eBay, they were selling for $814, right? So You've already missed a bit of a window. Although that said, I still think Trae Young has a lot of upside. The Hawks are on the rise. You just mentioned RJ Barrett. I actually think RJ Barrett is a guy that has pretty significant upside. He's getting a ton of playing time this year with the Knicks. They've obviously got a new coach coming in, or the new coach that is there now. The Knicks look much more organized and just better as a team this year than they've looked at any previous year. Right. And Barrett has the opportunity to put up a lot of numbers. He's been inconsistent. He's had some great games where he's 25 points, and then he's got some games where he's 0 for 10 shooting. So he's inconsistent, but obviously he's still in his second year. He's still a super young guy. So that's a guy who I think, still has a lot of upside potential. If you're going to do a little, more speculative. One of the guys in the article who I mentioned who was super under the radar was Keldon Johnson of the San Antonio Spurs, who a lot of people weren't even really tracking, weren't paying a whole lot of attention to. So his cards were dirt cheap. And I said, hey, I like a lot of the analytics around Keldon Johnson. I think he could have an opportunity to shine this year. He's done pretty well out of the gate for the Spurs, and his cards have risen quite a bit already as a result, but there might be more upside on him. Obviously, what I like to do, look at teams that you think are going to have some postseason success, right, that maybe haven't had postseason success in the past. Like this past year, the guy whose cards went up the most over the course of the bubble was Tyler Hero for the Miami Heat, because of the fact that people weren't really expecting the Heat to get to the finals. And Hero was the new young star of the team who was not proven before getting to the bubble. So his cards accelerated quicker than did, let's say, Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler's been around for a bit. And so Butler's cards went up a lot as well, but not as much as Hero's cards, just because Hero, had that upside potential. Also Bam Adebayo of the Heat was another guy who benefited a lot in the offseason as well. So I think about that. I think about what are those teams that could be the up and coming teams, these playoffs. And then what are those players who are maybe second year, third year, fourth year type players? I mean, if you go back to last year in the bubble, that was Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz. His cards went up tremendously. That was Jamal Murray of Denver. His cards went up tremendously. So who are the guys who could do that this year?
Okay, so let's do a case study. I won't hold you up too much longer. You've answered a lot of stuff and I appreciate it. But Brandon Ingram, he's looking really good right now. I look at the last game here, 31 points, 4 rebounds. What do you think of him? And let's just say right now, because that's the guy he's been on my radar. Let's say I want to buy a card. Can you walk me through how we can purchase this card and which one I would get right now for best bang for buck, whether it be using your app or eBay? Like, how would I do it? So Brandon Ingram is a guy what do I do right now? And would you like him first of all, do you like him too?
Yep. I like Brandon Ingram. I do. Up and coming team. He's having a kind of a breakout type season. He's obviously there's been a lot of interest around him for a while, but he's really stepped up his game this year. He's still young enough in his career, where he's got a lot of future upside, so he could be a good guy to buy.
What do I do?
Yeah, so I mean, what I would do is go into the Sports Card Investor app on the phone right there.
I don't have that downloaded yet. I got to download it right now.
You got to download it, and then you can hit this little filter button right here, and you can type in his name. You can type in Brandon Ingram.
Okay.
And once you do that, it's going to load all of his most popular rookie cards, and you can just swipe over and see each one, right? So I said the sets you want to worry about as a starter are Optic, Prism, Select, and Mosaic. Well, the first card it shows here, this is his Optic base rookie card, his regular Optic rookie card. There's his Prism regular rookie card, his base rookie card. There's his Select, right? So those are the cards that are coming up. And then you can just swipe up and you can see which ones are currently for sale on eBay by grade. And then you can also see what they recently sold for, and also a little chart of what those recent sales have been. So that gives you, that's how I would approach it. Get a sense of, pick the player, look at their most popular cards, get a sense of what the market has done recently, look at the listings on eBay, and then find one that's around the value of what it sold for recently, and go in there and buy it.
Do I have to just log in first? Do I have to create a membership here for this app, or how do you?
You don't. It's totally free. No membership required.
So where do I go? There's a search bar here. I just got to go into the search.
There's a little filter. If you're in the Sports Card Investor app, there's a little filter button in the bottom right that you click, and that's when you can search.
Oh, okay.
Search by player.
I wasn't in the app. There you go. I was on the website for some weird reason. It took me.
You got to get into the app.
Okay, I found it. Okay, so I'll search there. So that's where we're starting. That's a good way to get going.
It's a good way to start. It's a good, easy way to get started. You can see the most popular cards in there, and then it will link you directly out to eBay to to see the various cards that you're trying to buy. This actually brings in all the latest pricing from eBay right into the app, so you can see what things are selling for right inside the app.
So what is making sports card? I mean, I have my reasons. Obviously, people are passionate about sports. It's exciting. You can make money out of it. But what is making sports cards booming now? What's so special about it that people are like, wow, all of a sudden it's starting to? Do you find it's like hockey stick growth lately, or what do you think? Oh yeah, it's been absolute hockey stick growth over the last 18 months. It's been absolutely crazy to watch. There's a lot of factors at play. There's a lot of people who did it as a kid, like I did, that have kind of rediscovered it. And now, unlike when they were a kid, when they didn't have the money to go buy, the big cards that they would really like to buy, now they got a little disposable income. They can put into the cards, get some cards that they really, want to get, some players they want to get. And then of course, since the market's hot, they're seeing those cards go up in value, and they're seeing you can literally buy a card on eBay. And that's, by the way, a big difference today versus when, I was a kid doing this, is the market is extremely liquid today, because you can literally buy a card and then turn around and sell that card the following week very easily through eBay. There's other sites too, by the way. Star Stock is a great one for people getting started. Star Stock's got a unique model where when you buy a card, it sits in their vault. You don't even take possession of it unless you request it.
what that allows you to do is flip it the next day. You could buy a card on Star Stock and then relist it for sale an hour later. If you know, it could literally be before a game's played. You could say, man, I think Trae Young's going to go for 70 points tonight. So I'm going to buy a couple of his cards on Star Stock now. And then 3 hours from now after the game, I'm going to put him back for sale at double the price. And you might, and if that actually happens, if he actually goes for 70, you'll sell him at double the price probably after the game's over. So, you know, that's it. It's that type of, so Star Stock's a great one. So the fact that it's that dynamic, it's that real time, it's essentially sports cards are becoming the stock market for players. It allows you to invest in a player, and it allows you to see your investment rise or fall as the player's career progression continues. And so it just makes it really fun and compelling.
It's exciting. I just want to give you another case study here before I let you go. So I've got a Russell Wilson card. Like I said, it's been sitting in my closet. It's been in one of those hardcover things, though. I don't even know what they're called. Those cases that's got the hardcover on it. I think it's in good shape. There's a chance that if I ship this out and get it graded, I'm afraid it's going to come back in 8.5. So I've got that fear. If I sell it raw, I don't think I'll get as much for it. So can you look up what that card would be worth? Maybe it's a Russell Wilson silver. Is that easy thing to look up quick? Or
yeah. So that you have to, if you're looking up a free form card like that, you gotta use the Market Movers software, which is my paid product. It's got the connections in to eBay to look up the value of any card. So yeah, but you would just go into Market Movers and you would type in the name of the player. So I'm typing in right now, Russell Wilson.
Rookie
what,
card.
do you know the year and set of it?
Yeah, it's the Panini Prism. It's a signed one, serial number to 99, and it's signed. It's I think it's a sticker sign. I can't remember if it's sticker or
Is
whatever.
it 2012? Is it his rookie card?
2012 rookie card. It's at a 99, serial numbered, and it's signed.
All right, so let me see. So I'm going to look this up. I'm going to look up all Russell Wilsons from 2012 Prism that are serial numbered to 99 and that have an autograph on them. So that's the criteria I'm looking for. Yeah. And it's going to, my software is going to tell me if any of those sold on eBay in the last 90 days. It's going to pull them in. And the answer is yes. That card sold 3 times on eBay in the last 90 days. Now, all 3 of them that sold were graded. So the last 2 that sold were graded 9.5. Okay. And both of the, and one sold for $4,000 and the other one sold for $4,500. And then there was one that was graded a 10. That one sold for $9,100. So obviously it comes down to the grade. Now, if you think that your card is raw, if it's not currently graded, it's going to not fetch as much money, obviously, or if you get it graded and it comes back at a lower grade, it's not going to fetch as much money. So it might, if it's, you know, if the cards that are graded at 9.5 are selling from 4,000 to 4,500, if your card's ungraded, it might sell for 2,000, for example, something, you know, something like that. And if you get it graded and it comes back at a lower grade, it probably will sell for around the same as it would sell for ungraded.
But that sucks. I don't want to ship it out. Like, do you trust the system, right? It'll come back just.
Well, I mean, it's only worth grading a card if there's only a couple circumstances where it's really worth grading a card. If the card's in really great condition and it's got a chance at getting a perfect type of grade, and the card is, you know, worth, let's say, at least $50, then in that circumstance, it's probably worth grading. But if it's not in perfect condition, then the only time you'd really grade it is if it's a really valuable card. If it's a really valuable card, you know, then, and this one, I mean, this one's borderline, right? I mean, this one's worth a couple $1,000, so it might be worth grading, even if it's not in really perfect condition, you know, just to get that grade on it. Now, in this case, I would grade it with BGS, with Beckett, as opposed to PSA, even though most of the time I would grade with PSA. If you've got a card that's got a little bit of damage, BGS will sometimes do better for you in terms of grading, because BGS actually breaks their grading down in 4 different criteria. So it gives it what's called subgrades, whereas PSA only gives it 1 grade. So sometimes a card that's got a little bit of damage can do better with BGS in terms of the total grade than with PSA.
Wow, that's really good insight there. That's what we wanted to hear. We wanted to get that extra insight. So that's very helpful. You've answered a lot of questions. Unbelievable. So yeah, this is how to get into sports cards, everything you need to get into sports cards, everything. So how do people find you? You've got your own podcast, or just is this YouTube channel or podcast as well, or just YouTube right now? Yeah,
it's both. We simulcast our YouTube show on our podcast. So yeah, Sports Card Investor. So if you search on YouTube for Sports Card Investor, if you search on the podcast for Sports Card Investor, I'm putting out new content 3 days a week. and talking about what the card market's doing, what cards are hot, cards that I'm buying, all that kind of stuff.
And you don't really have to do this. This is a passion project, right? Like you're good financially. You've got businesses. Like this is just a passion, or is this a big part of your business?
Well, originally it was just a passion project. I started off doing it, myself last summer, not making any money on it at first, just doing it as a passion project. It's grown into a really big business now because a lot of people have subscribed to the Market Mover software and that type of thing. So I got about 15 people working for me right now as part of Sports Card Investor, between my dev team that works on the software, I've got a couple of content people that help me now with the videos and social media, and some support people who, are supporting people who are using the software, all that type of thing.
Wow. Unbelievable. I mean, we're in the right markets, I think. And I think sports gets bigger and bigger, especially with what happened with the world situation. More people at home, more people want to get into this stuff because it's an outlet. Because even with me, man, under the circumstances, I'm in the Toronto area, everything's under lockdown. It's like, what do you do? I mean, I got 2 young kids. I think I looked up your profile. He says you have some kids as well. I mean, it's hard to take them out. What do you do? So people are staying home watching TV, investing in, technology, watching sports. I just invested in a bigger TV now, and this is what I do. This is my passion. So this continues to grow, I think.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it's a heck of a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Geoff. It means a lot to us. Make sure you guys are following his content there. I've linked it below here on the YouTube channel. Geoff, we appreciate you, man. This is very insightful. And I think this is going to give people a lot of insight, a lot of guidance. And I hope I asked all the questions I needed, and hopefully that'll help people. Really.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, Joe, I appreciate it. Hopefully we've got a chance to do this again. And I look forward to having some of your audience follow what I'm doing. And I'll make sure to give them good advice and get them going in the sports card world.
Thanks. And I got you covered for fantasy. So we'll trade services.
I like it. I like it indeed.
Thanks, guys. We'll appreciate it. We're out. Make sure you guys subscribe and leave a thumbs up. We're out.